Hey everyone, Eber here with hardwarecanucks, and this is the Cooler Master Hyper 212 Black Edition CPU cooler. It now comes in this awesome gunmetal matte black finish that looks absolutely gorgeous with the brushed aluminum texture on the front, and I just love it. I just love the way how it looks. I mean, I love anything matte black if it's a phone or, a coffee mug or heck, even my car. Actually, I had to manually wrap that, but anyways, coming back to the point, we've seen an exponential growth in terms of computer components receiving the RGB treatment and, of course, aggressive design elements that might be appealing to some of you out there. But it's always refreshing to see companies go back to the drawing board and perfect some of their very popular components from 5 or 10 years ago to make them even better. And that's exactly what defines the Hyper 212 Black Edition. The best part is that this thing only costs $35. So I was actually wondering, what kind of performance can you expect when you decide to upgrade to a cooler of this caliber from your traditional stock cooler that comes out of the box with your CPU, regarding if it's Intel or AMD. So that's exactly what we're going to find out right after this.
Optimize your desk space with Tesora's new Gram Spectrum TKL keyboard with a compact steel frame and low-profile keycaps, removable cable, and sweet illumination. Plus your choice of Tesora's agile blue or red switches to satisfy those fingers. See if the Gram Spectrum TKL keyboard's for you. Links below.
Alright, so most of you should be familiar with the way how this cooler functions. It's still a basic design that still happens to be one of the best for the price you pay. So you get 4 heat pipes on each side connected to the cold plate. Installation also was pretty straightforward. Cooler Master does include brackets for both AMD and Intel. Unfortunately, this won't work on TR4. They now include this 120mm Silencio fan that's supposedly really quiet during idle and load operations, plus they simply attach to the heatsink via these metal clips. You can also add another 120mm fan at the back if you wish to go for a push-pull configuration, and I appreciate Cooler Master for including an extra set of clips for that. Now for testing purposes, I'll be using this $1,000 AMD-based system that I built a while ago, and I've been using this to test the latest Adrenaline 2019 edition drivers to see what their new features are like, and it's been great so far. But it has been rocking the Wraith Spire cooler that came out of the stock CPU, so I thought it would be a great example, I guess a great use case scenario to see what kind of temperatures can we expect when we decide to upgrade to this bad boy. Now the specs in the system includes a Ryzen 5 2600X with 16GB of Corsair Vengeance LPX memory. I've also got an XFX RX 590 Fatboy graphics card, all sitting on an MSI B450 Tomahawk motherboard. In the case of choice is the Fantex P300, and I will be running all of these tests with the side panels closed just so we get a more realistic use case scenario when you have the PC right beside you. But I know a lot of you guys may be wondering why I decided to go with a 2600X versus a 2600. And the simple answer to that is that the 2600X has a 95 watt TDP rating compared to the 65 watt TDP rating on the 2600. So it actually flexes or pushes the limits on these coolers when it comes to performance. So without any further ado, let's check out the results. Now I ran Prime 95 for 15 minutes to stress test the CPU both at stock and overclock settings. Now, the 2600X at stock settings with the Wraith Spire cooler yielded around 37 degrees Celsius idle and 92 degrees Celsius under full load with the fan speed set to its default setting. I did manage to increase the fan RPM all the way up to 2800, which did result in lower temps, but the acoustic performance was not that great. Take a listen for yourselves. Now switching over to the Hyper 212 Black Edition, and I saw temps around 33 degrees Celsius, and under load, it only got as far as 62 degrees Celsius with fan speed set to 1400 RPM. And the best part was the acoustic performance was phenomenal. Here's a quick comparison between it and the stock cooler. So right off the bat, you can certainly tell that there's a significant decrease in temperatures when you decide to upgrade from the stock cooler to an aftermarket solution like the Hyper 212 Black Edition. Now, I also did some overclocking to see how this cooler can handle it, and I used the Ryzen Master software to overclock the 2600X to 4.15 GHz at 1.425 volts. But the sad news is that I was not able to get a stable overclock with the stock cooler installed. Every time after I run Prime 95 for around 6 minutes, the system just crashed and it just wasn't able to keep up. I even tried increasing the fan speed all the way up to 2000, or well over 2,000. And again, the system just crashed because the stock cooler is just so tiny, so it can only do so much, and it just wasn't able to handle the overclock. But the Hyper 212 Black Edition did pretty well. So we're talking around 37 degrees Celsius idle and 90 degrees Celsius under load, which is still hot, but remember, the fan speed was set to about 1400 RPM. Bumping that up to 2000 did bring down the temperature significantly, and the acoustic performance was also very respectable. Alright, so I think it's safe to say that upgrading from your stock cooler to something a little bit more robust can certainly help bring down those temperatures. I mean, even with the fan speed set to its max setting, I was barely able to hear the system, which was awesome. But there are some other factors to consider. First and foremost, the case of choice. The P300 is certainly not the best case when it comes to airflow. It certainly has some restrictions. So if you were to switch that out for a case that has better front intakes, that would have certainly helped decrease those CPU temperatures on both the stock and this cooler as well. Another important thing to consider is even at load, at the stock settings with the CPU, the clock speeds weren't hitting above 4 GHz, at least during my test. So certainly overclocking the CPU can help bring up those clock speeds at a consistent rate, and I think that's important, especially if you plan on doing some rendering work that could potentially help take advantage of those higher clock frequencies. So a lot of factors to consider, especially when you're planning on building your system within a certain budget. And again, for $35, this cooler surprised me in a lot of ways. So that concludes this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Let me know what you guys think about the 212 Black Edition from Cooler Master. I mean, for $35, would you consider upgrading to this from your traditional stock cooler? And also, if you're looking to see comparisons between this and perhaps the ones from Noctua, are you interested in something like that? I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments down below. I'm Ibor with hardwarecanucks. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to check out some relevant content over here. Subscribe to our Boot Sequence channel. I'm signing off, and I'll see you guys in the next one.